Today's the day we figure out if I can beat Pokemon Colosseum with a team of only Abra and Gastly. Both are speedy special attackers with low HP, defenses, and physical attack. Unfortunately for me, Colosseum uses the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald learn set, which means Gastly will be learning its moves at a higher level, plus I don't have access to Shadow Ball or Nightmare. On the other hand, Abra learns Teleport by leveling up. Only Teleport. Thank Arceus, we'll have TMs to fix that eventually. Since this is my first ever Pokemon challenge, I put in zero thought, preparation, or planning into this, so I really don't know what to expect. Like every other Pokemon challenge, I can't use glitches or exploits, no items in battle, but held items and items used outside of battle is perfectly fine. But before the run can officially begin, I have to get past the first two battles. This isn't me trying to cheat the challenge, but a limitation of the game itself. I've tried multiple times to start the game off with Abra and Gastly, but they always ended up with Umbreon and Espeon's moveset for some reason. Either way, I'd have to modify the save to fix things. So after passing the first two battles and freeing Rui from the sack, I can finally save the game, use the PK hex editor to modify my save file, then place an Abra and Gastly into the PC, who I have affectionately named Port and Lavender. To make things as fair as possible, while I was in the editor, I clicked random for the IVs and natures. As for the abilities and genders, I just flipped a coin. Port has the inner focus ability making him immune to flinching and the impish nature, so more defense but less special attack. Lavender on the other hand only has access to levitate for an ability which makes her immune to ground type moves, and she rolled a bashful nature so no increase or decrease to any stats. As for their movesets, I picked 4 moves they could learn at or below their levels. For Lavender, I went with Hypnosis, Lick, Nightshade, and Spite, and for Port, I went with Teleport. With all that out the way, it's time to finally begin. Finally in control, I bump into Sephiroth, who definitely won't be a problem later on. Spoke to Mr. Mayor, who dismissed my concerns about Shadow Pokemon, got told I can't do a Colosseum battle right now, then got jumped by 3 cue balls. Our debut battle is a complete sweep against Corphish and Coughing. Corphish only uses Bubble, which hardly does any damage to us. Coughing kept using Poison Gas on Port even after he was afflicted with poison. Then Lavender nightshaded everything to death. Great first battle, but this is where all the fun stops. Back at the mayor's house, we're greeted by Michael Jackson alongside the Ranger rejects. I'm then forced into a battle against Beavis and Butthead, which brings me to my first major hurdle. How do you knock out a Wishmer when you can't damage it because of your moveset? Well, you don't, especially when it knows super effective Astonish that wrecks both of your Pokemon. I can't battle or go anywhere else because these two idiots block the path until I beat them, and I keep respawning inside this building. But there's actually a way out of this. I just have to keep losing. The Wishmer might be impossible to damage, but the Lotad isn't, so he becomes our grinding partner. On attempt number 5, Lavender finally has enough experience to level up to 28, allowing her to learn Confuse Ray. Despite it being a ghost type move, it can still be used on normal types because it's categorized as a status move. Confuse Ray starts putting in the work by having Wishmer hurt itself. Then I had a 10,000 IQ idea. What if I use Spite on Port to waste his teleports? But the confusion wears off and Wishmer uses Uproar on Lavender, dealing no damage. I reapply Confuse Ray and once again the Wishmer chooses Lavender as a target for reasons I don't fully understand. Down to our last teleport, I decide to risk it by going for Hypnosis and thankfully it connects. With the Wishmer asleep and Port having no usable moves thanks to Spite, he temporarily gains access to the move Struggle, a 100% accurate physical move that deals typeless damage and some recoil damage to the user. After delivering 2 struggles, Port safely leads us to victory. But the fun doesn't stop there because we're immediately thrown into the next battle. We struggle the Spinnerack for little damage, then Nightshade the Duskull for big damage. Thankfully, instead of attacking us, they go for a String Shot and Leer combo. On my next turn, I remove Duskull from this physical world, then comes the Shadow Mach-E, who socks me square in the chest. Port continues to struggle against Spinnerack, who responds by using Constrict on Lavender for 0 damage. I take the risk by using Hypnosis on Mach-E, and once again it manages to connect. Port keeps showing Spinnerack how to struggle through life, while it hits us with another String Shot. My next turn, Port struggles Mach-E for minor damage, while Lavender finishes off the spider. With the odds now in my favor, I decided to add on an extra layer of safety by using Confuse Ray while Port does his thing. Another struggle in Nightshade brings the punching bag down to about a third while he continues to enjoy his fat nap. To try and keep Port alive, I use the call action to basically skip his turn, while Lavender does what she does best, but unfortunately Shadow Mach-E wakes up, only to knock himself out in confusion, finally freeing me from this hellhouse. But we're still not out of the city yet. I now get to pick which flavor of Power Ranger I want to battle with, and I ended up going with the Green Ranger because he has a Bayleaf, which I thought would be the easiest to knock out, but good Arceus Almighty, this dude is the Herald of Death. Sludge one-shots Port, and Shadow Rush one-shots Lavender. Terrific. The Red and Blue Rangers would be harder in theory. Croconaw has multi-hit Surf and super effective Bite, while the Quilava has Smokescreen to mess with accuracy and Flame Wheel to apply burns. So this is technically our best option. Even if I manage to knock out Bayleaf, the Spoink destroys Lavender with Psywave. So I do what I do best and start fail grinding. Honestly, this is all about luck. If I can hit the Bayleaf with Hypnosis, then get lucky that it stays asleep long enough for me to take out the Grimer, this might be doable. So on attempt number 14, I watch Rui once again remind me that Bayleaf Bayleaf is in fact a shadow Pokemon. Port does nothing while Lavender hits the snooze button on Bayleaf while Grimer misses Screech. Ignoring Port, Lavender uses Nightshade on Grimer for about a third while Grimer misses another Screech. Lavender brings Grimer down to yellow while Bayleaf continues his much needed nap. The puddle of mud finally hits a Screech on Port, but that's a-okay with me. Lavender knocks out Grimer and in comes the Spoink. This is the first time I've gotten here with both my partners alive, and thankfully the Bayleaf continues to sleep. I decided to play it safe by using Confuse Ray on the little pig, then my heart dropped because Bayleaf finally wakes up and takes out Port with Body Slam. Spoink then uses Torment, which prevents me from using the same move twice in a row, so I take the risk again, and Hypnosis puts the Bayleaf back to sleep, while the Spoink hits Lavender for about a third, so now I'm panicking. Nightshade does less than half, but then Spoink hurts itself in confusion, putting him in perfect KO range. But I can't use the same move twice in a row thanks to Torment. So I double down and use Confuse Ray on Bayleaf, who thank Arceus stays asleep, but then the Spoink snaps out of confusion just to bring me into the red. My sphincter is officially clenched. I take out the Spoink, then Bayleaf wakes up just to hurt itself in confusion. Lavender puts the little dinosaur back to sleep, then brings it to just above half with Nightshade, but since Torment doesn't go away until you switch out, I'm stuck wasting a turn. Another Nightshade drops it to the red, but of course he wakes up, then uses fucking Synthesis. I was beyond pissed. Then just add more fuel to the fires of my rage, Hypnosis misses, then he uses another Synthesis to heal back up to full. With my blood pressure at an all-time high, I use Confuse Ray, which thankfully hurts it on its turn. So now it's do or die. I have Lavender use another risky Hypnosis, which thankfully lands. Repeating history, Nightshade does just above half. I stall out another turn, Nightshade into red, stall out yet another turn, but Bayleaf wakes up, hurts itself in confusion while I let out the biggest hell yeah in existence. With one more Nightshade, the battle is finally over. This was hands down the most stressful battle I have ever had in my life. What the actual Lavender is the luckiest girl in this world. So with all that out the way, I'm finally free to continue my journey in Pyrite Town. And no, things don't get better for me. I might have a bunch of trainers to grind on now, but everyone in the town square easily slaps me around. There's only one person I need to beat to progress the story, and I have a plan. After failed grinding Lavender up to level 33, I replaced Spite with Dream Eater, then headed over to the roadblock known as Kale. Now this did take me a few attempts. He starts off with Shadow Furret and a Ralts. I have Lavender use Hypnosis to put the Furret to sleep. Ralts uses Imprison to do literally nothing. Knowing that Ralts can two-shot Lavender with Confusion, I have her use Nightshade to start getting rid of that little problem. Instead of destroying Lavender, she hits Port with Confusion, but who am I to complain? After Nightshading the Ralts from existence, in comes useless C-Dot who can't even touch Lavender. But the Furret wakes up just to Shadow Rush Port right to the Pokeball. Once again, it's another all-or-nothing moment. Lavender goes in for the Hypnosis, and it hits. C-Dot goes for Bite, and I literally couldn't care less about what he does. Lavender gobbles up those sweet dreams, bringing Furret well below half while the C-Dot continues to exist. Lavender goes in for another Dream Eater, but the Furret wakes up just to give a helping hand to his partner, which makes her Dream Eater null and void. C-Dot continues doing what it does best, then instead of Shadow Rushing Lavender, Furret goes in for another round of applause, but the crowd goes mild for C-Dot, while we miss a Hypnosis. Furret keeps trying its best to help C-Dot, then I have a mild stroke from another Hypnosis miss, only for it to miss again. Furret tries to flex its strength, but Lavender is immune to such moves. She finally lands a Hypnosis, letting her Dream Eat the Furret to hell. In comes the Machop, who also can't touch Lavender, so she started blasting off Nightshades to give us a well-earned victory. After the battle, Kale's Superfood here tells me they're giving out free Shadow Pokemon at the local Colosseum. On our way there, a scientist stumbles out of a building, and we learn that some dude named Silva stole a gear that helps the windmill operate, and without the gear the town turns into an even bigger shithole than it already was. Backtracking to a completely irrelevant construction lot, we find the missing gear. Then after reinstalling it, the windmill now supplies a whole 2 watts of power to this shanty town. Lucky for us, the sheriff is at the office, so I took the opportunity to steal the jail keys, then set a prisoner free just so I can obtain TM46. This bad boy contains the move Thief, and I gladly installed it into Port's skull, giving him his first attacking move. Even though it's the norm these days, for those who may not know, moves used to be physical or special depending on their typing, so despite the low base damage, Thief is actually running off of our 105 special stat. So with that, Pyrite Colosseum was mostly an easy sweep. I did struggle a bit on the final battle thanks to some early Hypnosis misses, but Port's added damage is a huge help. And since he's staying alive longer, he's finally able to earn some decent experience points. I was rewarded with a crisp $48.48 alongside the TM for Toxic for my victory. Attempting to cross the bridge out of town, we get pulled inside the definitely not Team Cypher headquarters for a free Shadow Pokemon, but instead I was rewarded with free battles and level ups. At the top of this building, Wreath wants to fight. Not gonna lie, I was not prepared for a little Love Disc and Spinarak Wombo combo, so I got absolutely cooked on this first attempt. But the real problem is her friend Firma and the damn Shadow Mantine. This Pokemon is Skarmory's special counterpart. Super high special defense and decent bulk all around. Sadly, I got wrecked on this attempt since I was already down 1 Pokemon. Even after a few more attempts, Firma's combo of Mantine and Aipom keeps giving me some trouble. Aipom needs to be taken out first since Agility lets it outspeed us, plus it has super effective Astonish. We Sleep and Thief the Aipom while Mantine thankfully misses the Supersonic. Next turn, Lavender Dream eats the Aipom, then in comes the Furret who gets hit with the Little Thief, all while Mantine misses once again. Since they want to play dumb, Lavender hits the Manta Ray with the Confuse Ray, Port doubles down with a Thief, Furret chooses Defense Curl, and Mantine hurts itself in confusion. The fancy-looking Scarf sneak attacks us with a quick attack, bringing Port to red. Lavender manages to connect a Hypnosis on Mantine, while Port brings down the Furret to just above half. And of course, Port gets taken down by the fastest Furret alive, with Lavender unleashing a beefy Nightshade upon the big man, who then wakes up just to hurt itself in confusion. Then a final Nightshade takes the Flying Fish to its watery grave. And this battle is a wrap. Her Furret and Yamna have no moves to hurt Lavender. She puts them to sleep and then eats their dreams for the win. Michael Jackson then jump scares us on the big screen, saying he Poké-napped Duking's Plusle and that he'll be waiting for us to challenge him in his cave. Pyrite Cave has a ton of trainers for me to battle. Thankfully none of them are too much of a threat, but at the end of this cave is the King of Pop himself. And yeah, this battle is a brick wall. This dude has 4 Ludicolo, plus a Shadow Sudowoodo. 2 of the Ludis have Swift Swim, which doubles their speed and rain, while the other 2 have Rain Dish, which recovers 1/16 of their HP while it's raining. The worst part is that he likes to start each battle off with having both of his Pokemon use Rain Dance, so whether I like it or not, I get to suffer. The level 28 and 29 both have Swift Swim, plus super effective Astonish. The level 30 has Mega Drain for some heals, alongside the multi-hit Fury Swipes to destroy Port. Then the level 31 has Leech Seed, which will absolutely ruin any attempts if it lands. The Shadow Sudowoodo I'm not as worried about. Now, what made all these attempts really suck was my terrible Hypnosis luck. Why does Hypnosis have 60 accuracy? Sleep Powder gets 75 accuracy. I will give Spore a pass since only 4 Pokemon can learn it in this generation, but why Hypnosis? Why does it have 60? I'm assuming it's because a decent amount of Pokemon can learn it, but who really knows? After a lot of fail grinding, on attempt number 10, he starts off with a 30 and the 31. I start off by putting the 31 to sleep because that one is top KO priority. Then had Port slam it with a Thief, while Michael Jackson sets up the Rain. I go all in on the level 31. Lavender Dream eats for massive damage, with Port following up with what he does best, only to get splashed by a rain-boosted water gun. We play it safe by confusing the 30, while Port hits an unnecessary crit hit, sending the 31st Ludicolo to the Pokemon Center. But in comes 29, while the 30 hurts itself in confusion. With the Rain still up, the 29 outspeeds us, but Astonish does less damage than I expected. So we Nightshade the 30, bringing it to yellow, Port brings it down even further, then confusion damage takes it to the red. The 29 hits a beefy Astonish, almost knocking Port out, so Lavender gets revenge with Nightshade bringing it down to just below half. Port follows up by taking the level 30 out of commission, and in comes the last Dancer. Now that the rain finally stopped, we take out the 29 with Nightshade, and in comes the fake Rocky Tree. Port lets off another tiny Thief, but here comes the rain again, raining on our heads like a tragedy. Lavender somehow manages to outspeed, putting the Pseudo to sleep. Then Port gets taken out by a critical hit Razor Leaf, which Lavender soaks up just fine. I have her eat up those sweet dreams for massive damage while recovering some health. Ludicolo then pulls off another critical hit Razor Leaf, but we're still good. After getting hit with more fallen leaves, we finish off the hardwood, then get some more leaves blown at our face, only to miss the Hypnosis, but in return the rain has finally stopped. So I Nightshade to yellow, the Ludicolo sets up the rain one last time, Lavender once again manages to outspeed it, and with a final Nightshade we bring this battle to a satisfying end. After the battle, Michael Jackson Naruto runs off screen, only for us to find the kidnapped Plusle still alive. After saving the town, Duking wants us to take care of Plusle, and I quickly banished it to the Shadow Realm. Upon trying to leave this crappy town, Old Lady Fatine calls us over, telling us to go to the north side of the capital wasteland to find the Oasis. This is a little off topic, but why does this place sound like that song The More I See from the anime Monster? That's been on my mind for a couple months now, and I needed to share it with somebody. In the Oasis, we meet with Rui's grandparents, then learn that some shady outsiders have invaded the Relic Forest. After a few easy fights in the cave, we get to witness the saddest battle ever. I'm just thankful it wasn't me getting my ass slapped around this time. It is nice to see Fat Pikachu again, though. Whoa, Pikachu, who gave you the pass to say that? Since Grandpa failed in his battle, it's up to me to face off against this scrub. This actually took quite a few attempts because Lavender missed Hypnosis 6 times in a row across all attempts on this Shadow Hitmontop. Nightshade and Thief easily takes out the Geodude. Then in comes the Shadow Hitmontop with the pointless Intimidate, with Clamperl using Iron Defense. Hypnosis finally connects while Thief deletes some life from the Clamperl, who then crashes down a waterfall upon Lavender, but that's no biggie since she eats the Hitmontop's streams for massive damage, then heals herself back to full. Port uses his one and only move, bringing the Pretty Pearl down to a third. The Hitmontop remains asleep while Lavender gets drenched once again, but with a Nightshade and a Thief, the only Pokemon Scrub has left is a Wynot. Just to avoid any Mirror Coat shenanigans, I immediately put it to sleep, then like a good punching bag it stays asleep for the rest of the battle, giving me an easy win. After the battle, Scrub said he was instructed to capture Celebi and to destroy the Relic Stone, but with his failure to do so, he must now immediately inform Dacom, who has gone to Mount Battle. Why would he tell me this? At Mount Battle, I do what I do best by grinding up the first 9 trainers, and at number 10 we watch a dude literally get knocked the fuck out before coming face to face with this giant-ass DBZ Kabuki Joe man-spreading unit of a war god. This is, honest to Arceus, one of the few battles I was legit worried about. I don't even know where to begin with this. Usually he'll start off with Metang and Golem. Both of these are annoying as hell. Metang has everything to counter me. Amazing typing, good defenses and attack stats, with super effective Psychic to destroy Lavender, plus Earthquake and Metal Claw to knock out Port, who can surprisingly tank an Earthquake. On the other hand, we got Golem, who likes to spam Protect, Double Edge and Earthquake to nuke Port out of existence, plus Rock Throw to destroy both of their lives. Thankfully he's slow and has weak special defense, so we can still hit him pretty hard. After those two we have Marsh Stomp. Despite having middle of the road stats, he has access to Muddy Water to hit both my Pokemon with a chance to lower their accuracy, as well as Mud Slap and Mud Shot to further reduce their accuracy and speed, which I can't afford to let happen. Then we have Camera Up, who has surprisingly higher stats than I remember, while also having access to a Spicy Flamethrower alongside Earthquake, Takedown, and Protect. And don't even get me started on his Shadow Pokemon. So I didn't have any plans for this fight, I just kept throwing myself at his team to gain experience and knowledge. Just from trial and error, I start to find some consistencies in this battle. The best combo to go up against is Metang and Golem, or Metang and Camerupt. Metang will always start off with Earthquake. Golem and Camerupt will also use Protect to avoid said Earthquakes. This gives me the chance to set up the double sleep. On the other hand, the worst combo to get is Metang and Marsh Stomp, because either Port has to eat an Earthquake for breakfast, or both of them have to eat a Muddy Water for dinner. As for the Shadow Pokemon, well, I have no clue, because as soon as it comes out, I get absolutely destroyed. But after an hour and a half of throwing myself at this brick wall of a man, the cracks finally begin to show. Camerupt goes for the Protect while the Metang goes to sleep. Port starts chipping away at the blue arm saucer, but Metang wakes up to use Protect while Camerupt goes off to Slumberland. And Port gets blocked. With the Humpback Camel asleep, I go all in on Metang. Nightshade bypasses its bulk and Port finishes it off with Thief. Then in comes the Marsh Stomp. I have Lavender gobble up those sweet dreams for massive damage. Port gets an amazing critical hit on the Marsh Stomp, bringing it down to half HP, then gets devastated by Mud Shot, with the speed drop included. Lavender then takes the Axolotl from critically endangered to extinct, while Port smokes the Camel. Then in comes the Golem and the Emperor of the Crystal Tower, Entei, with all his glory. I sat there for a while. Do I risk the Hypnosis or not? I decided to go all in with Hypnosis, but I accidentally clicked Nightshade, which does a quarter of Entei's health, who then proceeds to Shadow Rush Port out of existence, while the Golem uses Earthquake to knock out Entei. Fucking what? Why? Why the hell would you do that? Like, I am beyond baffled. What was the endgame there? Whatever, man, you do you. At this point I decided to risk it all, but Lavender lands the Hypnosis. One Tree Meter brings the Golem to the red, and a Nightshade finishes this battle. I am beyond thankful for Lavender having Levitate, because I don't think I would have been able to get past this battle without it. Also, when I was a kid, you don't know how bad I wished Entei was my real dad. I'm 11 hours into this playthrough and quickly losing my sanity. After the battle, Dacom just jumps off the side of the mountain. Vander rewards us with the Ocarina of Time for saving him, while I return back to the retirement village to exchange phone numbers with an old man. Upon leaving the village, I noticed that there's a new location on my map, but as soon as I arrived there, I got an email telling me 2 Gooners got nabbed, and that I should head back over to Shantytown. At the police station, I get another old dude's number, and inside the jail cell, I steal the elevator key off Ray's Bell while she's sleeping, which is a little weird. Then Firma lets it slip that they were headed down to the Under before they got cuffed. At this point, I already know I'm not prepared for the Under. I'm tired of losing, and I'm tired of relying so much on RNG. But there's one place I can go to fix all my problems. If you see my Parasite Eve challenge video, you'll know I'm no stranger of going up 70 floors, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here too. At Mount Battle, I can take on the Knockout Challenge. 10 areas, each containing 10 trainers for a grand total of 100 battles. Every battle gives experience points, plus I get free heals if I win the battle. I'm not going to bore you with all these battles, so I'll give you the TLDR version. Area 1, I vanquished Vander. Area 2, Arth got annihilated. Area 3, we ruined Renson. Area 4, Trench got trampled. Area 5, we zapped Senton. In Area 6, things start to get a little spicy. I actually had to reset the console a few times because I don't do save states, but I still managed to level Loco with some luck. Now Area 7, I had a ton of resets. It was going great until 65 when I bumped into fun old lady Lono. Her Murkrow loves to spam Feint Attack, and it can't be put to sleep thanks to its Insomnia ability, while her Mischievous loves to spam Psybeam alongside Perish Song, which instantly KOs every Pokemon after 3 turns unless they switch out or manage to win the battle before the timer hits 0. Her Banette also loves using Feint Attack, then just like Killer Queen, her Sableye has no weakness. That entire combination gave me a headache, and I just had to get lucky with the resets. Then at 67, Cool Trainer Ferda gave me a terrible time. Her Girafarig has Odor Sleuth to make Lavender vulnerable to both normal and fighting moves, plus a Vigoroth who can't be put to sleep. Long story short, I had to take out the Giraffe before it could use Agility, then use Confuse Ray to slowly whittle down the Vigoroth. After passing Funny Number Man, we finally make it to the end of Area 7 for our showdown against Athy. I was a bit nervous going into this because his Mawile has super effective Crunch, plus he has a bulky Dusclops with Will-O-Wisp, Curse, Confuse Ray, and Shadow Punch. His Quagsire and Altaria weren't much of a threat since they both took a fat nap. I was half expecting Altaria to Dragon Dance, then just start sweeping. Then his Machoke only used Foresight and Low Kick on Lavender, so I pretty much ignored him. Not sure if I should have went into more depth or detail on this battle, but either way, Athy has been atomized. After beating each area, I'm awarded with Poke Coupons, and after that ordeal, we finally have enough coupons to purchase 1 Psychic TM. Yes, 70 battles for 1 TM. Why is this place so damn expensive? I am now 17 hours and 40 minutes into this challenge. After installing Psychic into Port Skull, I head on over to the land down under where some lady has an announcement to make. Apparently spies have infiltrated the under, so while we ignore that little problem, I head on over to one of the 4 remaining Kmarts just to purchase a Reflect TM for Port. Downstairs I grab the power-up part from Pier, then dropped it off at the kids next door's garage shack. Silva gets captured by Daphne and Daphne, who I Scooby-Doo out of existence. After freeing Silva, he tossed us the R-Disc, which I used to unlock this UFO, then rode it over to the recording booth, where we finally face off against Team Galactic Admin Venus. She starts off with the Delcatty and Vileplume, and I send out my 2 besties. Right out the gate, Lavender puts the cat to sleep, while Port gets a beautiful one-hit KO on the Corpse Flower. But the Bayonet comes in to take its place, having access to both Psybeam and Shadow Ball makes me a little nervous. Lavender then Dream Eats the kitty out of existence, while Big Boy Steelix slides into battle, just for the Bayonet to also get one-shotted by Psychic. Then we have a timeless encounter with Shadow Suicune. Lavender immediately sends Suicune off to Slumberland, just for Port to hit above half with a resisted Psychic on the Steelix, who then hits the battlefield with an Earthquake, leaving Port with exactly 1 HP, while also hitting the Water Dog for about a quarter. I decided to go all in on the Water Dog, then Lavender decided to turn that Dream Maid into a critical hit, which redirected the Psychic into Steelix, leaving him in the red. Steel Snake then shakes the entire world one more time before sending Port to the Poke Center. Lavender Nightshades one more time, easily finishing off the battle. That training arc really paid off. After the battle, Team Galactic Admin Venus Naruto runs her way out, so I give chase. On the way down, I noticed that every trainer who blocks my path uses a Gen 2 Shadow Pokemon that gets an evolution in a later game. That's a cool little fact, I guess. Venus managed to give me the slip, but drops the subway key in her hasty getaway. Using the key, I take the tram to the next town over, and as soon as I stepped off the tram, I got recognized by 2 peons, then almost died in a legit explosion. Upon checking the aftermath of the explosion, I found a main gate key, then commenced my raid on Area 51. So, I actually lost to some random-ass peon here because I forgot Nuzleaf was part Dark type, and I tried to blast it with Psychic twice, then when I returned for my rematch, he was just gone, never to be seen again. Further inside, the scientist turns on the alarm, which does nothing except piss me off. Like, listen to this bullshit. No, seriously, that guy in particular. I had to listen to that shit for an extra 30 minutes because I thought there was a healing station here, but I got myself confused with the Gale of Darkness version of this lab. Then I forgot to collect the DNA samples to open the next door, so give me 1 second. After getting my ears blasted to death, I returned with the DNA samples to finally open the door. And downstairs we were greeted by Lord Eisen, who asked how did we get in without his notice. My brother and Arceus, the alarm is still going. How the hell would you not notice? It's whatever, man. First attempt, I got completely clapped. Psychic fell just short of one-shotting the Huntail, which unfortunately let him get off Rain Dance, which then let Lantern spam Rain-boosted Hydro Pumps to quickly end the battle. Second try, Lord Eisen starts off with Lantern and Altaria. I start off with a Nightshade and Psychic combo to send that purple Sea Devil belly up. In its place comes another Deep Sea Fish Huntail, while Altaria takes to the skies. I take the risk on the fish by using Hypnosis, which lands just as planned. I then have Port set up Reflect to reduce damage from Altaria's fly. A single Dream Eater Thanos snaps Huntail out of this battle, with Golbat swooping in to replace it. Port brings the Altaria down to just below half with Psychic, who then responds with a wimpy Ice Beam on Lavender. I have Lavender show Altaria what a good Nightshade looks like, but in comes the Legend of Thunder Raikou. Port takes out the Golbat with a super effective Psychic, so now it's 2-on-1. Unfortunately for Raikou, the combined effort of Nightshade and Psychic proves to be too powerful and the Thunder Dog goes down easily. After that battle I picked up the data ROM, then got a convenient email telling me to go back to the kids next door's garage shack. But the real important thing is this NPC here telling me to go to the Real Gam Tower. Arriving at the Stratosphere lobby, look who we run into again. I knew Michael Jackson was serious this time because his theme song didn't play. In fact, he was so serious that I lost the battle due to pure carelessness. Second try we double tap the Golduck, Nightshade and Psychic, then down goes the Duck. Loudred hits Port with a devastating Shadow Ball that leaves him in the red. Lavender gets that lucky sleep on Ludicolo, while Port booms the Loudred back to the ball. Now with double dancers on the field, I double down again. Out goes one of the Ludicolos, and in comes the fake Rocky Tree. Lavender gobbles up some sweet dreams, bringing the remaining Ludicolo down to yellow, while Port booms yet another Pokemon out of this universe. And with another Dream Eater, we claim the red ID badge. And boy oh boy, the fun doesn't stop yet. We then run into the ass clapper known as Dacum. He starts off with a Fortress and a Claydol. I doubled down on the Claydol for the possible Psychic that awaited Lavender, which turns out to be a great call because Fortress goes in for the Protect. But then entering the arena is the Sand Dragon Flygon. Fortress fails to use Protect. Lavender misses her first Hypnosis in a while, then Port brings Flygon to the red, who then Earthquakes him to death and does a quarter to the Fortress. The Steel Ball protects itself again while Lavender takes out the Flygon. Now I'm dealing with the Wish Cache of Doom. Since Fortress is only going to Protect, I Nightshade the Catfish for about a third, then get Waterfalled in return. Ignoring the Steel Nut, I tuck the Wish Cache into bed, then send it off to Neverland on the next turn, then enters the Entei. Lavender misses Hypnosis just to eat a Fire Blast to the face, then misses a second Hypnosis just to take a second helping of Fire Blast to the face, with the burn included. Since Lavender is going to faint on the next turn, I did a Nightshade to check the damage range, and it does just above half. That Entei and the Hypnosis accuracy can both eat my ass. That was a pretty close one. Next time I doubled up with Dream Eater and Psychic to erase the Flygon. Useless Fortress gets sent out just to eat a critical hit, Earthquake from the Claydol. Port gets sent to yellow, then we boom the Claydol out of existence. Then here comes the Wishcast who immediately gets sent back to the Pokeball. My Fantasy Dad finally gets sent out, then Fortress decides to be useful by using Earthquake, which sadly takes Port out and brings the Entei to below half. Like seriously, this is twice in a row now that Entei has taken friendly fire from Earthquake. I almost feel bad for it. Nightshade leaves Entei with literally 1 HP, so Lavender ends up beating a Fire Blast, but the second Nightshade takes him out. And after several rounds of trying to bypass Protect, I finally get him down to a single hit, only for him to have the audacity to use a damn Hyper Potion. After 40 days and 40 Nightshades of Protect, I managed to finally beat Dacum, earning me the green ID card. Up next is Team Galactic Admin Venus, and pardon my French, but this has her team built for pure annoyance. She isn't even here to win. Her goal is just to piss you off. Sure, I one-shotted her Raichu, but her Bellossom and Mischievous used Attract to infatuate both of my Pokemon, which means they have a 50% chance to do nothing. This is some real bullshit because Team Galactic Admin Venus likes to throw in Confuse Ray on top of Attract to give me a 50% chance to hurt myself, and she has the audacity to throw in a Thunder Wave to paralyze just to further keep me from attacking. So I was caught off guard that first attempt, and the second try doesn't go any better. If you get attracted, you're pretty much screwed. Like, I'm not even annoyed at the losses, I'm just sick of rewatching this tunnel cutscene every time I go anywhere in this place. Third time's the charm. We put the Bellossom straight to sleep, then give the Wigglytuff massive psychic damage. The pink sack then body slams Port down to a quarter, Lavender then Dream Eats the flower down to the yellow while Port blasts the Tuff off the map, but in comes the Raichu while the Bellossom stays asleep. Lavender finishes off the flower, then Port booms the Raichu out of the arena, bringing in both the Mischievous and the Shadow Suicune. I double tap the Mischievous with a combo of Nightshade and Psychic Psychic, sending it straight to the graveyard before it has a chance to do anything. The Water Dog then Shadow Rushes Port back to the Pokeball. Lavender Nightshades the dog to the yellow, who then responds with a Surf that she easily shrugs off. And with one last Nightshade, Suicune has been defeated forever. After the battle we received the blue ID card, and since Port just leveled up, I gave him 3 rare candies that I found earlier to further boost his power. Last on our plate is Lord Eisen. He starts off with a Rhydon and Starmie. We double tap the Starmie with the rarely seen Thief, and the overly spammed Nightshade. Starmie goes out while the Crobat comes in. The Rhydon chooses to use Toxic on Port instead of rock sliding us to death. Port then booms the Crobat out of here, who then gets replaced by my Gen 3 Goat Pelipper. Lavender sends the Rhydon to sleep, completely skipping his turn. Port booms the Flappy Bird to 0, while Lavender swallows every bit of Rhydon's health. Now it's just us against the Thunderdog. Port nukes him with Psychic, dropping him to the red, while Lavender finishes him off with a Nightshade. Except for Venus, all these rematches went 1,000 times better in my opinion. We have come so far from our days of getting stuck in the mayor's house, thirsting for experience, but the journey still isn't over yet. After the battle we obtained the final ID badge, but before we can open the vault door, Grandpa sends us an email, but it got cut off before getting to the point. So I meet with him in person and he tosses me a Master Ball. What the hell am I supposed to do with this thing? Anyways, back at the tower, I slap in these ID cards just to get jumped by Doge, but he isn't even worth talking about. Finally inside the main lobby, we're once again greeted by Sephiroth, who's been waiting for my arrival. But before that can happen, we bump into our old store manager Gonzap, who's here to punish me for not putting in a 2 weeks notice. And this man absolutely stomped my ass twice in a row. Shiftry and Crawdon are surprisingly hard counters to my team. Both of them are part Dark type, so they're immune to Psychic and Dream Eater. Sludge Bomb from Crawdon completely devastates Port every single time. And his Shiftry has both super effective Shadow Ball and the never miss Feint attack. Since I'm struggling again, I decided to go fight everyone in the lobby for more experience. Then I remembered I was playing Pokemon Colosseum, and I've only done one mandatory Colosseum battle this entire time. So after 3 nights at Fenix Stadium, we obtained the TM for Giga Drain, which I installed into Lavender's Skull, placing Confuse Ray for some extra type coverage. Back at the tower, the 3rd time once again proves to be the charm. This time he starts off with the Pinsir and Hariyama. Out the gate, Port blasts Hariyama out the ring with Psychic, and in its place comes the Shiftry. Lavender misses Hypnosis, then Mr. Sura uses Earthquake, bringing Port down to the red, and damages the Shiftry for a chunk. Port crushes the Beetle with Psychic, bringing in the Crawdon, while Lavender puts the Tengu Tree to sleep. I have Lavender use her newly acquired Giga Drain, and it absolutely destroys the Crawfish, who's then replaced with Shadow Skarmory. Port hits a Thief for barely any damage on the Shiftry, who continues to stay asleep. The next turn I go all in with a Thief and Shade combo to remove the Stump, and the Iron Bird Shadow Rushes Port to his early grave. Nightshade brings the bird to a 3rd, while a Steel Wing only does a 3rd to Lavender. And with another Nightshade, Store Manager Gonzap has been demoted to Assistant Store Manager. Now it's finally time for the part of the game I've been worried about since even before starting this challenge. The 5-man Gauntlet, which is basically the Elite 4+ champion with no breaks in between. We beat Jomas pretty easily, then upon entering the next battle, reality hits me. I don't get healed after these battles. I assume this counted as a Colosseum style battle where you get healed after each round, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Even Mount Battle bestows this mercy. So I immediately realized I was cooked because Port was already at half health, but I still pressed on anyways just to get a feel for these battles. Dellin, the Dark type user, easily knocks out Port, and his Mightyena leaves Lavender with a single point of HP thanks to his crunch. I did manage to scrape out the win, but there's no point in continuing. Round 3 I got absolutely obliterated by Flamethrower, so it's back to the drawing board. I'm gonna need 4 clean sweeps to even get a chance at fighting Sephiroth. So I get back in the battle and I head off to Mount Battle. Area 8 wasn't too bad for the most part. I did have to play it a little safe with Area Leader Shaban. She has a Cacturn, and as we've learned, anything part Dark type is the bane of my existence. Plus she has a Starmie that completely destroys Lavender, but thankfully Port was able to finish it off with a Thief, and with that, Shaban has been slain. First battle of Area 9 was insane. I actually had to reset a whole bunch of times because this Ninjask is fast as hell. It only gets faster with each passing turn thanks to its ability, and this one just happens to have Shadow Ball that always one-shots Port. This dude also has a Girafarig that likes to use agility to outspeed us, then it starts spamming Lavender to death with its Psybeam. Once again, I'm 100% relying on luck. I just had to put the Ninjask to sleep, tank a Psybeam from Girafarig, Dream Eat the Ninjask, then put the Giraffe to sleep so Lavender can heal off of it, then ignore the Zangoose because it has no moves to touch Lavender, then sleep and eat the Dodrio. I swear, it's always the most random ass trainers that prove to be a problem. But at battle number 90, we face off against Norris. The only interesting thing that happened in this battle was Lavender tanking a critical hit Solar Beam from Bullawesome. Other than that, this was a pretty easy win, and with that, Norris has been nipped. Then it dawned on me, there might be an out for the 4-man gauntlet. Battle number 2, I can easily take out Sharpedo, but the Mighty Anna or Absol always seems to knock out Port at the first given chance. Lavender can 2-shot the Absol with Nightshade since it always goes for Sword Stance. That means the Mighty Anna will KO Port, who happens to always use the 75% accurate Iron Tail. So this isn't something that I really want to do, but we have to get Port certified with Weave Nation. I head back to the lobby to check out the overpriced item menu, then purchase the TM for Double Team. I'm not a fan of this strategy either, but this is just to cut down the RNG needed for one battle. I literally just need Iron Tail to miss a few times. I do consider this a scummy strategy, so feel free to dislike the video for me using it. So after 3 attempts, I finally get the lucky misses needed, which lets Port walk into Battle 3 alive with half HP. Psychic booms the Torkoal, Lavender misses Houndoom, who then buffs itself with Howl, Hypnosis misses again, and another Psychic takes out the Macargo, but Houndoom Shadow Rushes Port to the grave, then Lavender finally connects with Hypnosis. I really should have just went for Nightshades the entire time, which I ended up doing anyways, allowing me to progress to round 4. And I'm not gonna lie, Lavender was actually sweeping here. She managed to take out the Tropius, Credilli, and Vileplume. They just don't have the damage to knock her out, while she puts them to sleep and heals off of them. But that all changed once Cacturn showed up. I probably could have beaten him, but he woke up after a single turn of sleeping just to end my win streak. Even though I lost, they gave me a ton of valuable information for each battle. So we go back to the tried and true method of fail grinding, because if you bash your head against the side of Hoover Dam enough times, eventually it will crumble. The second battle still boils down to those Iron Tail misses, but as long as Port survives, Battle 3 is a free win. Then Battle 4 just depends on when the Cacturn comes out, and if it stays asleep long enough. I somehow managed to pass all 4 of these battles, finally letting me have a chance at challenging Sephiroth. I think Arceus the game gives us a free heal before going into this battle, because I was legit about to give up on this challenge. What's really weird about this battle is that there's no music, and to this day he's the only trainer to not use a theme of any kind. I already hate what I'm going up against. A damn Dusclops wielding Shadow Ball, plus Psychic alongside a Gardevoir also using Psychic. Lavender puts the Clops to sleep, while Port hits the Femboy Gardevoir with Thief, which deals less than half just for him to absolutely blast Lavender out of this universe. Another Thief leaves him with just a sliver of health, while Port gets hit with Thunderbolt in return. The Dusclops stays asleep, then Port pulls off pointless critical hit. Walrein comes out to replace Gardevoir, but Dusclops wakes up just to Shadow Ball Port to the graveyard. Well, that sucked ass. I went back to try again, and they make you fight each and every trainer all over again. At least now we know we get a free heal before fighting Sephiroth, so I get to doing what I do best and start fail grinding. Most of these attempts I don't even get to see Sephiroth, but I am gaining experience and battle knowledge with every failure. After many more failed attempts, the gauntlet is now getting consistent. Battle number 1 against Jomus is just 2 Giga Drains of the Miltank, then a Psychic for the Porygon and the Zangoose. Round 2 against Delwyn is 2 Nightshades for Absol, praying that Mighty Anna misses Iron Tail, Giga Drain for the Sharpedo, then a Thief and a Giga Drain for the dog. Battle 3 against Nella is just 2 Nightshades on Houndoom, a big Psychic on Torkoal, and another for the Macargo. And the final round against Stone, Lavender misses Hypnosis, Port falls just short of knocking out the Credilli with Psychic, Tropius takes to the skies while Credilli Sledge Bombs Port down to the red. After thinking for a few minutes, I have Port knock out the Credilli with Thief, and in comes the Sinister Cacturn, but I anticipated that switch by having Lavender Nightshade him down to a third as soon as he comes in. Port unfortunately gets knocked out with Fly, but his efforts won't go in vain. Lavender finishes off Cacturn with Nightshade, with Vileplume taking its spot. Tropius once again takes to the skies, then I have Lavender put the flower to sleep, and Fly actually misses. I took that opportunity to set up the double sleep since Vileplume isn't too much of a threat. One Dream Eater brings Tropius down to a quarter, a critical hit Dream Eater absolutely destroys the Vileplume, and a final Dream Eater ends the gauntlet. After 2 hours of bashing my head into a wall, I finally see some light on the other side. Sephiroth starts off with Gardevoir and Xatu. Thief takes the Xatu down to a quarter, then Lucky Lavender lands a Hypnosis putting the Gardevoir to sleep. In return, Xatu hits her with Confuse Ray, putting some serious pressure on this battle, but Lavender manages to lock in, nightshading the Gardevoir down to just below half, with Port's Thief knocking out Xatu, bringing in the Blaziken, while the Gardevoir stays asleep. This is perfect. Sephiroth chooses to dope up both his Pokemon with an X special attack, but Lavender unfortunately hurts herself in confusion. Port easily takes out the Kickin' Chicken with Psychic, but here comes the Dusclops, which gives me the worst combo to go up against. I mix it up by having Port take out the Gardevoir with Thief, which brings in my man Walrein. Lavender manages to power her way through the confusion, and lucks her way into putting the Dusclops to sleep, buying us some more time. I have Port boom the Dusclops with Psychic, but he survives with just a sliver of HP. Lavender ends up hurting herself in confusion once again, plus she ends up tanking an Ice Beam from Walrein, leaving her in the red. At this point, I am legitimately panicking. Port takes out the Dusclops with Thief, and now we're face to face with Shadow Metagross for the first time. Lavender snaps out of her confusion just to land a critically hit Giga Drain, bringing herself back up to 2/3 HP. Now that's what I'm talking about. Now it's just us versus the Metagross. After a long time of thinking, I have Port slam Metagross with Thief, taking off a decent chunk of HP while also stealing his Metal Coat. Lavender's Nightshade brings him all the way down to perfect KO range, but she gets taken out with a super effective Psychic. In a weird turn of events, it's now Port who carries the team to victory with the final Thief. I'm now 29 hours into this playthrough and I hate my life. After the battle, Sephiroth starts apologizing to someone, and in comes Mr. Mayor saying that he never imagined we'd get this far. Yeah, me either, man. Well, it turns out that Mr. Mayor is actually Mr. Wardak, and he's the head honcho of Team Cypher.
How dare you meddle in our affairs so thoroughly? The Shadow Pokemon plan we can resurrect from the start, but you two, you'll never be forgiven. I'll destroy you utterly, so you may never rise against me.
Entering this battle, I am once again thankful for the free heals. Mr. Wardak starts off with a Machamp and a Scizor, then begins doping up his Pokemon with an X attack. Port easily takes out the Machamp with a Psychic, but here comes the Slowking while Lavender sends Scizor off to Wonderland. After a long session of thinking, Mr. Wardak zips ahead of me, using a full restore on Scizor, removing the sleep. Port then does about a quarter to Slowking with Thief, but I decided to double down by having Lavender use Giga Drain on it too, which only brings it down to the red. Slowking unfortunately uses Psychic on Lavender, who surprises me by actually surviving that attack. Port then finishes off the Slowking, which brings in the Salamence. Lavender unfortunately misses Hypnosis, and with that, we have lost. Scizor Silver wins Port back to the Pokeball, so I have Lavender see how much damage Nightshade deals to Salamence, and it ends up doing just above half. Then with a single Dragon Claw, we're sent packing. I took a very long break after that loss because I was just devastated. But it turns out once you get to Mr. Wardak, you don't have to run the gauntlet ever again. Now I can fail grind to my heart's content. After a lot of fail grinding, I can definitely say the worst combos to go up against are Salamence and Scizor, or Slowking and Scizor, because even if Hypnosis lands, Port is either getting knocked out instantly, or Lavender is getting knocked out 2 turns later. Even if I go for the double sleep, he'll just use a full restore. Right now, the only thing we can do is just keep grinding and grinding. So in attempt number 15, he starts with the X attack doping, so I have Lavender put the Slowking to sleep as punishment, while Port shows the champ why Brains is better than Bronze. But here comes the Scizor who ruins everything. Since the Slowking is asleep, I can go all in with a Shade and Psychic combo to instantly remove Scizor from the battle. Salamence takes its place, then Mr. Wardak unexpectedly uses a full restore on the Slowking, but in return Salamence eats a nasty Psychic, bringing him to the red with Lavender finishing him off. Now with Slacking on the field, I know exactly what he's gonna do. Port brings the Slacking down to a quarter with Psychic, but then Lavender fumbles the bag by missing Hypnosis. Port gets taken out with Crush Claw, then Slowking does the skill swap. Slacking has amazing stats, but its ability only lets it attack every other turn. Plan was to put the Slacking to sleep just for Slowking to skill swap, thus skipping its turn with its newly added ability. I have Lavender finish off the Slacking with Giga Drain, then in comes 7 straight generations of OU, the ultimate Shadow Pokemon Tyranitar. Upon hitting the field, his Sandstream ability whips up a Sandstorm, meaning we'll be taking damage every turn. After another long thinking session, I have Lavender put the Slowking to sleep, while Tyranitar hits her with a Rock Slide for a bit more than half, but the Sandstorm whittles her down a little further. Lavender Giga Drains the Tyranitar, taking him all the way down to the red, while also bringing herself back up to 75% HP. She then gets Shadow Rush back down to a quarter, while the Slowking continues to sleep. The Sandstorm further damages her, but she's still barely in the yellow. Another Giga Drain finishes off Big Green, but Slowking finally wakes up just to knock Lavender out with Psychic. That one really stung. I was so damn close. That was my first time seeing Tyranitar too, but now I know that Lavender can tank some of his attacks, so that's valuable information. Attempt number 21 starts off with a pair of Kings. This is the perfect setup for my team, but it all depends on if Lavender can land Hypnosis on the Slacking. And she does. Port blasts him down for 2/3 of his HP, while the Slowbro plays himself like a fool by skill swapping. I have Port send the Slacking packing, making the Run Destroyer Scizor appear, while Lavender Nightshades the remaining King for just above half. Once again I spent a long time deciding on my next moves, just for this man to use an X attack on both his Pokemon, which just baffles me. Luckily for me, this more or less skips his entire turn, letting Lavender and Port remove the Scizor with 0 effort. In its place comes the Salamence, whose Intimidate doesn't bother us, because he immediately gets removed from battle with a combined Nightshade and Psychic. Then in comes the Machamp. Lavender Giga drains the Slowking back to the year 2000, with Tyranitar getting tagged into the ring, while Port knocks the champ out, with both my Pokemon getting damaged by that pesky Sandstream afterwards. Since it's now a 2v1, I have Lavender Giga drain T-Tar down to the red, then had Port set up the Reflect instead of knocking it out with Thief because I'm a damn idiot. The Jolly Green Giant then Shadow Rushes Port down to half, while also damaging itself with Recoil. The Sandstorm continues to annoy me, but with one final Thief, Port takes out the Tyranitar, finally freeing me from the self-created hell. but I'm not quite done yet. After watching the 7 stages gather, a helicopter explodes and the winged dragon of Ho-Oh flies off. Then I head off back to Mount Battle. I'm already 90% of the way done with it, so I may as well go to the top. 93 was a bitch and a half to get past. Rich Boy Quinn starts off with a Kadabra and a Grumpig, who both know Psychic, plus he has a Matang and a Lunatone in reserves. I can't risk sleeping the Grumpig because it has Magic Coat, which would just bounce it back to Lavender, putting her to sleep instead. So we have to focus the Kadabra. If I don't, Lavender gets one-shotted by Psychic, then Port is going down right afterwards. So after 13 attempts I get the run where Grumpig Magic Coats nothing, thus skipping its turn. Then Port gets a critical hit on Thief, instantly taking out the Kadabra, which means Matang eats a Nightshade for 2/3 of its HP. Port then hits the Pig with a decent Thief, Lavender takes down Matang with another Nightshade, and here comes the Moon while Grumpig takes Lavender down to the red with Psychic. We go all in on the Pig just to take it down, then we go all in on the Crescent Moon. I honestly feel like that crit was the only way to pass this battle without having to go out and grind some more. Then at 96 I had the weirdest battle. This Mischievous attacked its own friendly camera up with Hidden Power after I knocked out the Ninetales, and I'm not sure why. I have never seen that happen in any Pokemon game before. Okay, this is future me talking. I just realized it was probably Hidden Power Fire to activate Ninetales' Flash Fire ability. That's actually kind of genius. Now here we go for the 100th time. Somic tosses out a Claydol and a Pinsir. Port instantly booms the Pinsir back to the Safari Zone, and in its place comes the Crobat. Lavender Nightshades the Claydol for more than half HP, just for the Claydol to bring Port down to the red with the Shadow Ball. Port then surprises me by outspeeding the Crobat, blasting him all the way back to the Pokemon Center. Lavender easily takes out the Claydol with Nightshade. Taking their places is now a Flygon and a Gligar. Port going 3 for 3, easily takes out the Gligar, but here comes the big scary Gyarados, while Lavender manages to put the Flygon to sleep. Port's Psychic spams the Gyarados down to a quarter, with Lavender completely gobbling up the Flygon's dreams and all. Gyarados uses Earthquake to knock out Port, and once again I am so thankful that Lavender has Levitate to avoid that. With one final Nightshade and almost 32 hours of my life gone, I have officially beaten Pokemon Colosseum with only an Abra and a Gastly. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was an experiment for me. I wasn't 100% sure how to format this one. There's definitely a ton of things I could have done better. Like, here's a fun fact. Every single sentence is stitched together. I fumble every single line. Most of these sentences are 2 or 3 different takes just cobbled together. I'm not sure what it is, but I've been having problems speaking fluently while I have my headset on. I might switch over to just a mic in the future. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, drop a like or a comment. I always enjoy reading them. If this video does well enough, I might try to do more Colosseum challenges, or I could try the same challenge in XD. But until then, check out some of the other challenges that I already have uploaded on the channel. And to the people already subscribed, I apologize that this took so long to come out. My last challenge didn't do well at all, so I lost a lot of confidence in myself, and just wasn't in the mood to create anything. Then Elden Ring Night Rain came out shortly afterwards, so I was just enjoying that for a little bit. Then I got super into that anime Horse Girl racing game, and that's just been consuming my life. Then Silksong gave me a 2 weeks notice, so I was having fun live streaming that. But I am working on the Dark Souls challenge that y'all voted for. The recording and script is already being worked on for that one. I just hope I can find the time and motivation to finish it. But until then, take it easy, and I hope to see y'all in the next one.
Boy, I'm glad all that's over.